And I guess, Tony, listen, and I'm not going to knock the media. I'm in the media, so it's not my business to do so. But if you read the headlines of most of the major publications, you would think the world is ending. We're talking about college drinking habits and how we're going to go to war with China in some form or fashion. And yet there doesn't seem to be any erosion or disintegration of faith from Donald Trump's base. Does the tough talk work nationally for Donald Trump?
Boy, it's funny. I was out in Pennsylvania, Ohio last week, which I think the parts of both of those states that I was in was definitely Trump country.
That's your country too, my friend.
That's my country. Yeah. Western Pennsylvania is my country, and I was at a wedding in Ohio. And look, I know there's like small samples and anecdotally, but I didn't see any erosion in his base, his kinds of voters in those areas, and I think they're standing with him pretty strong. The question is, how big is that base? The sort of the looser Trump supporters, looser Republican voters, and independents. I think we're definitely, if polling is to believe, we're seeing deterioration in those groups. And then the question is, how much does that translate into midterm elections in about 5 weeks?
Well, listen, there is a school of thought. I'm not saying that I buy into it at all. My opinion matters not. But there is a school of thought that this Brett Kavanaugh stuff is going to fire up the right. The Democrats have had sort of the momentum, and everyone's talking about this blue wave, but this Kavanaugh stuff is getting a lot of maybe GOP voters off their seats because they're frustrated on how it is being handled. Do you buy into that at all?
I don't know how big it is. Again, and this is actually on that very specific topic. I heard that independently from people. I didn't even have to ask the question. I heard it from Republican voters in both of those areas of a lot of anger with how the Kavanaugh nomination has been handled, and they're taking aim at the media, and at Democrats, and they seem to be pretty enthusiastic about it. I haven't seen polling that has shown that it's had a big impact yet, but I'll be curious to see whether it's showing up in polling. I certainly saw it anecdotally.
Yeah, there's no way really to know, Tony, but I mean, I love your anecdotes here, and obviously, we both travel a lot of the places, and everywhere we go, I don't know about you, but everywhere I go, I spend a lot of time in Wisconsin and Virginia. People look at me like I've got two heads because I'm in the media. They say, Brian, I'm sorry, but I love CNBC, but what is on the cover of many of the national newspapers every day has no bearing on how I think or what I believe is happening in this country right now.
Yeah, they're not even. So many of them are not even paying attention to the things that we spend all day, talking about and watching and reading about on Twitter. And I don't think that's often well understood in D.C. and New York.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've got a stock market that is at record highs. I understand a lot of people may not invest in stocks directly. The market is at record highs. The economy is booming. We have more open jobs than unemployed people. I just do worry, Tony, that there's a lot of really good news and interesting economic stories outside of the Beltway, no offense, that is kind of getting blurred by the fact that every day it's kind of the same stuff taking the headlines.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just blurring us. I mean, look, I do know that if we look at President Trump's polling again, he's still upside down. He's still largely unpopular. There are more people disapprove than approve of the job he's doing, even in this very, very strong economy. And the economy itself is its own separate story. It's very strong right now. It did have an infusion of support on the fiscal side from both tax and spending, but it's a strong economy. We're seeing a lot of organic growth. There are a lot of really, really great stories out there. We're starting to see some really good entrepreneurial stories. We'll see what happens in the global economy, whether that has an impact on the U.S. right now. But it's hard to remember, and I remember some pretty good economies. It's hard to remember a stronger economy, one that's this robust and creating jobs. And now we're starting to see wage growth come back too.
Yeah, and it's just not maybe getting as much attention as it potentially should, given everything else that is going on, which is why we've got smart guys like you on and average intellect guys like me on TV, and we're just trying to tell some of these good news stories because they are out there, Tony Fratto. Yep. They are out there.
They are definitely out there. Now, trade is still an issue out there. I think we're going to have a long line of headlines here for another couple years on the trade war and getting this new NAFTA done, on still negotiations with the Europeans and now the Japanese, and then also the big enchilada, the fight with China. I think it's going to go on for a while. So we are still going to see some of those headlines.